Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Comics Discourse 114. I'm one of your hosts, Brian Newberry.
I'm Brian Clark.
And I'm Hassan.
Y'all, how you feeling tonight?
I feel a little dizzy. I feel like I have, I don't know, vertigo?
Yeah, same here. I'm a little swaying around a little bit. You got my joke before I even got to make it, Haas. Brian's like, I hate you people. So
I'm just barely feeling it.
Oh, well, I think I mentioned at the end of last week's show, but we decided with Vertigo about to make a strong comeback that we were going to talk about some books throughout the classic Vertigo runs. We each picked two. We did not collaborate. We just said each one of us gets to pick two books, and that's it. No rules. So it just had to be a Vertigo book. Austin tried to set some rules, but Brian said, "Fuck it, come on, break it anyway."
I was trying to say, hey, let's do like not the DC based characters, but no one want to listen to me.
I was going to break it, and Brian did.
Does House of Mystery count?
I'm about to say it kind of does. In a sense.
When we count as a DC, it's a DC character. It's. I mean, House of Mystery is DC based, right?
Classic DC, yeah.
It's classic DC.
Yeah. Well, we're going to cover Animal Man 57, which was the first time they slapped Vertigo on the title. And then Creature, number 1. Fables, number 1. House of Mystery, number 1. And The Wing.
American Vampire.
And American Vampire. I thought I was missing something, but almost all of these can be found on the DC app on the normal subscription, but you have to have Ultra to get to The Wake or American Vampire, which is weird.
Well, they did advertise the Ultra to say, like, it had double. I was looking at it it has 37,000 extra comic books if you have the Ultra experience. You sign up for Ultra, plus you get all the books 1 month after release digitally on Ultra.
Well,
so
I think half of what they're counting as Ultra are the same comics, except they put them in a trade, and you can click on that instead of the issues.
That they have clay. Yep, they do have trades as well. I like that. I actually do like having the trades, access to trades. But yes, DC Ultra. Both Brian Clark and I are members of DC Ultra. So I find it very.
I had to unshrink wrap my American Vampire omnibus, though.
Oh wow!
Oh,
yeah, because it is weird. I think at first the Vertigo stuff wasn't. You had to have Ultra, and now it seems like a bunch of it you don't. But it's still just random shit in there.
I think it's like for example, they announced Rick Veitch. Is they're publishing his last 4 issues that he would have done if he didn't leave Swamp Thing in protest when they changed the storyline. And so to celebrate it, DC is offering all of his Swamp Thing books for free on the digital app. So I think they do certain Vertigo books for free. I'm surprised that American Vampire is not one of those free ones, or not free, but on the regular one. I can see that there's like a lot of odd Vertigo books that you're like, I could see that, but I'm surprised American Vampire was not on that list. Mr. Absolute Batman himself does not get you have to pay extra for him, I guess.
He's a draw for him.
I guess so,
well,
but I find the Ultra plug very very.
They're not going to sponsor us, Hassan.
You never know. You never know.
Not with that attitude.
You never know.
We're going for the other people.
We can become Absolute Comic Discourse 114.
Hey, I mean, I wouldn't mind
after us for that one. Y'all.
I wouldn't mind a free subscription to Ultra, but anyway, but I find it very valuable. The Ultra, and also, I like that app better than Marvel. My issue with the Marvel app is it takes too long for the new stuff to come on the app.
So I forget about it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Well,
let's talk about Vertigo.
I think the format of tonight, we said we're going to talk about the first issues, and we will. But I think each of these will talk probably more about the series than the individual issue, would be my thought. But we'll
Mhm.
see. And just let's talk about Vertigo in and of itself a little bit. I feel like this is where Professor Hassan probably wants to put on a little hat about Vertigo real quick, though,
Well,
before
I
I put you
mean,
on the spot. I just figure you
no,
have something ready.
you know what? Work's been busy. I was going to think about it, but I didn't want to, tip my hat. But Vertigo's started off where DC was really focusing on like mature reader comic books, and obviously the most famous one is Swamp Thing by Alan Moore, and then eventually started doing more of those. They did Spectre by Doug Munch. They also did Shade, the Changing Man, Doom Patrol by Grant Morrison. Really transitioned from a straightforward superhero to a bizarre book. The format, we
Animal
mentioned
Man.
Animal Man is another example. Even Neil Gaiman's Sandman, where people think it was Vertigo, didn't start off as Vertigo. I mean, people forget that Justice League actually appeared in the first story arc in Sandman.
Justice
And
League International at that.
International, yes. And let's be clear, Sandman, just like House of Mystery, is not a Neil Gaiman creation. It's a derivative of, obviously we got the Golden Age Sandman. Then we got, I would call it a weird, like one Jack Kirby's, not so much famous creations that when he came over to DC, but there was a Sandman from the 70s, really weird version of Sandman. But anyway, but eventually DC decided to have its own imprint, and it's called Vertigo. So some of these books that were like the pre-Vertigo books, suddenly, like we're going to talk about Ant-Man 57, suddenly 1 month changed to Vertigo. Now, originally it was like focused on like their DC horror characters or characters that they already have. Then eventually it transitioned to create their own books, focusing on that. And that's where Preacher came in. You also had Invisibles at the same time. Eventually,
Enigma was creator owned because it's
yep.
now at Dark Horse for their reprints. There's a ton of
That
just random stuff throughout this.
Yeah, and there's no connection. And then they found Hellblazer. I don't know why I've totally forgot about Hellblazer, which really is the longest running Vertigo book ever. I think it went to 350 issues, I want to say, which is incredible. It was 350 issues. But again, it didn't start off as a Vertigo book. Started off as a DC book. Eventually, this imprint was so successful, they created another imprint to focus on science fiction. What was it called? Helix, I want to say.
Yeah, I think so.
But that didn't last so long. It wasn't that successful, and they merged some of those books that were in that line into Vertigo. The most famous one is Transmetropolitan, which did last quite a bit in Vertigo, and it was very successful. I think the reason why it's successful is obviously Karen Berger. She's, I mean, people know, always consider her one of the greatest editors at DC of all time. She's the one that edited Alan Moore. She's also edited Paul Levitt's Legion run. She edited a lot of great stuff. Neil Gaiman, Sandman. I mean, and she also, I think it's called the British Invasion, the 80s, where she and some DC folks went to England to recruit English creators. And that obviously worked out very well. But eventually, I think, there's ups and downs from Vertigo. There's a lot of Vertigo stuff that people don't realize didn't last long. And I mentioned on the show before, I've never stopped reading comics, but I took breaks from reading superhero books. But there's a point in my buying habit that I was buying almost every Vertigo book just to try out. I didn't I didn't stick with them all, but I did try almost every one because I was so into it. And then obviously I think there's ups and downs because the thing about these books is that it's not like Batman or Superman or Spider-Man where they could last forever. So the trouble is you always have to find out, okay, what's the next new title? And we're going to talk about how some of these books did become the next big thing from Vertigo. And some of them, Well, I think most of these were all successful that we're talking about, but some of them didn't pan out. And honestly, I think that I want to say, and we're going to actually the Wake is one of the last, is the last book we're going to talk about. That's 2013. That's really towards the end of what people deem to be peak Vertigo, and then DC made some strides to keep Vertigo going, and it didn't pan out, and they discontinued it with all the changes with Warner Brothers as well. But now they're bringing it back in 2026, which I'm very excited about.
Brian, what's your experience with Vertigo?
This week. No, I'm just kidding.
Bullshit.
No,
You at least got Why the Last Man and Preacher.
Yeah, I like because I remember really getting into DC, like definitely around Death of Superman, but I also remember like that sort of catapulted me into the comic shops and like around like Nightfall and stuff. And I would see Vertigo books like on the shelves, and I remember being like, that shit looks too adult for me. Like I don't get it. Like all the covers were crazy. It seemed like weird, and I was like, man, that's for like advanced comic readers right there. Can I have that latest Spawn and Nightfall, please? So I always knew about it, and then as I became an advanced comic reader, I was like, oh, I'm intrigued. I don't know why The Last Man. I can't think if I read that before or after Saga #1. I have no idea. But I do love Why the Last Man and Preacher. Um, I'm a big fan of Punisher, Welcome Back, Frank, and I think that's probably how like I got catapulted into Preacher. Um, and that was a long time ago. So those are like the two big Vertigo books that I have read. Uh, and then The Wake, we'll definitely talk about that later.
Yeah,
How about you, Brian?
I've read off and on. I didn't really read it in the 90s, but I went back and read a lot of stuff from them, like Sandman. Um, my husband got hooked on Preacher, and I started reading that, but that was when we were in law school in early 2000s. You know, I've read just random titles like y'all haven't mentioned. There's so many of them, but things like Crossing Midnight, The Unwritten was a big one. Um, Ex Machina by Brian K. Vaughan. I forget that that was a
I
Vertigo
always
book.
want to
No,
read
that was
that.
That was originally Wildstorm, and they
Oh
moved it to
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
but they got it in for
No,
some
they
reason
moved
they
it to
have it
Vertigo because
in Vertigo section.
it was like a line that Wildstorm had. They moved it to
Yep.
Vertigo. It's like
Yeah.
yeah,
DC
but
has it on the app in Vertigo, and I was like, I didn't think it was, but
no, I yeah.
um, The Filth. Did y'all ever read that?
The what?
The Filth.
Oh yeah, I actually thought about picking that, and then I'm like, I don't know if I have time to explain what the filth is. I
It's so fuck. It's like Morrison at his most Morrison-y just about. It
so
is
so
fucked
so
up.
so if Morrison wrote a book, just assume I read it because I don't know what Morrison book I have not read at this point. This so everyone knows that. So I agree with you. It's like Invisibles and the Filth. I need time to explain it. But I love the Filth. I had the deluxe hardcover. There was the Minx, which I also really enjoyed. It was supposed to be a regular series, but only last 9 issues by Peter Milligan and Sean Phillips before he became the famous Sean Phillips early in his career. I think, Ed Brubaker had an early series before he became the Ed Brubaker called Dead Enders. I have that. That's really good. I mean, it's a
Did you
lot of
ever
good.
read the Finals by Will Pfeiffer and Jill Thompson? It's a 4-issue series of this weird college that is just it's not like a normal college. It's like time travel and super science and shit like that. And I just forgot about it till I saw it in the app. I was like, I've read that
I,
shit.
I never read that. I heard about it. Like I did hear about it. Um, but let's see what
And
else.
the Kid
And,
Eternity series, I loved
yep.
that. You had I mean, there's so many deep cuts, but there's also things that are some of my favorite books, like one, Fables. Why the Last Man, Preacher that we've all mentioned, Sandman. I'm the one that picked House of Mystery, and I think it's a little lesser known or lesser talked about book, but it's 40 something issues, and I freaking love it.
I
I
read
hadn't read
that,
it
by
since
the
it
way.
came out, but
Hmm.
there's just so much in Vertigo. I mean, we hadn't even mentioned things like Sweet Tooth and
Sweet
stuff,
Tooth.
but
I love Sweet Tooth. And all the Jeff Lemire stuff he did at Vertigo. He did a couple of miniseries that nobody graphic novel that's being published that republished by Dark Horse Comics actually came out of DC. Um, and I joked around. I want to focus on the non DC characters, but it's interesting. I got into the Vertigo pre Vertigo stuff because going back, DC was taking these these like characters and making them more mature and quotes, but I think they were making them more interesting, more modern. And I think this line is one of the reasons why I'm a big DC fan. It's not just the superhero stuff. This made me really a huge fan of DC because you have this these books that have nothing to do with superheroes, right? And even the horror characters, when they were in Vertigo, really were not part of the DC universe, right? You're not going to see Batman in the Vertigo Hellblazer books. And I really love Hellblazer. I read probably out of 350 issues, I read probably 200 of those issues. I love that series so much. I
Austin, I do got to
DC,
say, I half expected you to pick We Three for us to talk about.
you know,
That's a tough book.
I've never
yeah.
read it. I refuse to read it. I do not want to read it.
I
And I
read
was
Oh,
afraid
yeah.
that this would be the point, Hassan. Hassan would
it.
pick
No,
it, and I'd
so
have to
so
read it.
so my
I just don't
theme,
want. I don't want to read animal stuff like that. I know.
yeah, no, I have the hardcover too. Like I said, this assume I read everything Grant Morrison. My theme was vampires. I decided to pick a theme, and Preacher. Obviously, I talked about Preacher is the book I gave my wife when we were dating.
So, at what point is Samantha joining us this evening?
No, no. And then I thought, okay, let me pick another vampire book, and I said American Vampire. So
We have much more chance of Amanda joining this show at some point, or Jason, than Samantha ever coming in here.
And they've both read Vertigo books though, so
Yes. Jason's read Preacher. He loves it.
I know Amanda's read all of Fables.
now,
And you have not.
I read most of Fables. I have not didn't read all of it.
Uh, well, let's get to it. We've talked
Okay.
around everything for a while, but whoever picked the book is going to talk about it. So we're going to go in chronological order, which means Animal Man is up first. So Brian, why'd you pick it?
So I've read the Grant Morrison Animal Man, uh, and so the two books that I picked were this Animal Man number 57, and The Wake. I picked The Wake because uh, I've been wanting to reread it, so I was like, this is the perfect time. And Animal Man, I've always wanted to read the Vertigo Animal Man.
So it's funny, we have the Grant Morrison omnibus, which is not Vertigo. I think it's the first 26 issues. Then there's the Veitch stuff that comes after it that goes to like issue 50. And then you have this run with Jamie Delano that starts at like 51, but it switches to Vertigo at 57.
Mhm. And it's the end of the story arc in 57. It's not the
It was
best
kind of
standalone issue.
it seemed like just a day in the life of issue.
I mean, the cover says it. It's so Steve Pugh, who does the art, is doing a new Vertigo book in the upcoming launch for Kyle Starks. So that's kind of
Yes.
crazy. Um, so I thought that was fortuitous. The name of that book is End of Life. So this Animal Man, it is so I haven't read anything other than the Morrison Animal Man. I definitely want to go back and read through all of it. But basically, he kind of Buddy kind of died. This book really brings in the red, and he has like he like checks out and envisions himself being various animals. But what stands out is I thought this was funny because like right away this is a Vertigo book, right? And it's very very adult.
Yes.
There is uh it starts off so strange. You're like, what? Just with some animals, and you're like, okay, it's Animal Man, and then it gets right into Buddy and his wife having sex, where he's checked out, envisioning himself being a seal eaten.
Eaten by
It's,
a whale.
yeah, his wife catches him on that. Then they get a little frisky, and then uh, this. So we also like deal with Buddy being a terrible father, just letting his kids do whatever, but he thinks he's pretty good at it. But what's the kid's name? Cliff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
Cliff is a
kid,
little shit.
God, he's a shit. But man, how awesome is this page where he's in this grocery store and this lady's getting all mad at Buddy's kids for going crazy, while her kid is filling his hair with Cheese Whiz, and then stands up, and we get this child's ass.
Ass.
This kid working out like.
All I can think
Is this a
parenting
John
in the
Byrne
late
baby
80s,
ass?
early 90s. Yeah.
That panel, I was like, look, this kid's just flashing junk. Um, but sort of the crux of this issue is you see his daughter, like she's connecting to the red. This whole story arc is like, from my understanding, the sort of genesis of the idea of the red and Buddy being an avatar of it, and his daughter really manifesting her powers, and Buddy's wife just hanging out half naked, wanting a piece bad. That's the story.
And
I
it
mean,
ends where you think she's about to get raped.
yes.
Yeah.
I did go reissue 58, and that's even weirder than this issue. I just think it's interesting when I read this. It just seems to me they always like to fuck up Animal Man's family. Like they really like to put them.
That's
through
what
the
I was going
ringer.
to ask. So I haven't read Morrison's, but I know it takes place at the same time as the Justice League Europe stuff because
Yes,
they're on several covers. But at some point during that run, his whole family dies, right?
that's exactly right.
Okay, so they're back somehow.
No, they're back at the end of Morrison's run.
Okay, so yeah, so they did come back, but then he dies.
Yeah, how did they
between
come back? It's weird.
Yeah. That's that. It is
Don't
because
spoil it for me because
Okay,
Yeah.
don't
I know
spoil.
he like meets Morrison or some shit like
Yeah,
that. Like,
yes,
I know it
yes.
gets very meta at the end. I just haven't read it yet.
I'm
It's always
surprised
on
you
my
have
list.
not read that series.
It's always on my list to get to. Like during COVID, I went and read a bunch of Morrison stuff that I hadn't read yet, and that was like next on the list, and I just never got back to it. But between Justice League Europe and then the Lemire run for New 52, that's like the Animal Man stuff I've read.
Hmm.
And the Tom Veitch and Steve Dillon run that you guys mentioned, that's actually coming out in an omnibus in April, which I already pre-ordered because I never
I
read
got it
that.
coming too. So they just basically need to finish up the run with this stuff because Delano goes until the end, except for the last like 10 issues. It looks like.
Yeah.
Well, Brian, you gonna keep reading this one?
I think I'm gonna go back to right after Morrison. But like this is when I decide I'm like this shit is awesome. I might pre-order that omnibus that Hassan just mentioned because I own the deluxe
Morrison.
versions of the Morrison run.
Hmm.
It's I mean it is like top tier comics. Like it is good.
is.
Like I read the New 52 Animal Man and I was like this is pretty cool. This guy's cool.
Yeah.
And then I went
I
back and
love
read
reading
Grant
that
Morrison.
one with the swamp thing.
Yeah.
that Snyder
Yeah.
was doing. Like they're perfect partner
They
books.
those two books I read those when they were coming out and it caused me to go back and read like almost all of Swamp Thing and then I read Grant Morrison Animal Man and after reading it I was like I'm a big Animal Man fan. Like his costume sucks but he is like a very intriguing character.
And I mean, and giving Grant Morrison credit, like before Grant Morrison wrote Animal Man, he really didn't appear outside the '60s. He was in this team called, I want to say, Forgotten Heroes. Like he was one of those lame characters that, again, these a great writer takes a lame character and make them better, so much better.
Yeah.
Speaking of his costume, I'm flipping through all these covers here on the app. Like before the Vertigo run, Buddy is on most of the covers in his Animal Man outfit that Brian loves. There is not a single. He's not even on hardly half the covers on the
Yeah.
Vertigo run.
They're
If
so
even that.
weird.
And there's none with a costume in sight.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
they try. It's kind of like they try to make it more adult. Okay, it's Vertigo. It can't be a superhero anymore. It's kind of like, not to mention a really bad miniseries, but when DC tried to make Zatanna more modern in the '90s, they gave her the worst outfit ever, even worse than George Perez outfit. Um, Made her not say stuff backwards. They gave her a magic staff. Yeah,
I will say, I will say this about his costume. Like, I kind of appreciate it because it's so weird. Like everything about it is weird, and I appreciate it for that. But like, if you look at it, like for real, like you're like, this is so dumb. Like I cannot handle costumes where their hair just flops out. Uh, he was like, I want to wear a jacket because I want to cover up how tight this is, except for my
Except for my
legs.
crotch.
Yeah, I want everybody to know that I'm a fucking animal, man.
To me, it always looks like he's about to go diving somewhere. Like
yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
it,
it's that color
it's
scheme for sure.
it's that and the mask over his eyes, but I just he just needs the scuba tank slapped to his back is how I feel.
Aquaman.
All right. Well, Austin, you picked a big one. So I
Yes.
have I have figured Brian would pick this one since he's been on a preacher kick of late. But next up
I
is preacher.
I just Brian was hesitating. I was like, I'm going in for Preacher. So Preacher came out in 1995. Now I actually did not read the first issue when it came out. I heard about people were talking about how great it was, so I bought the first two trades, loved it, and started picking up the issues afterwards. And so I read the first story arc in one sitting. So going back and reading the first issue, obviously written by Garth Ennis, drawn beautifully by Steve Dillon. It's a really perfect first issue. It actually introduced most of the main characters of the series, except for two. Harris Starr, who you won't find out until for second story arc. You won't see him.
And having
Second
him not introduced is
Yeah.
actually awesome because
Yeah.
it's exciting later.
Yes,
Well,
and
I forgot that Saint of Killers came in the first issue.
I did
Yeah.
too. That's what I'm
Much
saying.
earlier than I thought.
I thought he came in much later, and then the other person they didn't introduce, so you meet his father, Osface.
First
Yeah.
face.
Yes, yes. And I think it's a really great first issue because it starts off, in a diner, and you meet the three main characters, Jesse Custer, Tulip O'Hara, and Cassidy, and they're just eating a meal. Well, two of them are eating a meal on the diner, and then they're going about the backstory and how they got to this point. And you find out that Custer is a preacher, and then flashback, he's more clean, shaven, cut, and he one day goes to the local bar, and I think he just had enough of the hypocrisy of people going and doing confessions to him, and how this hypocrisy of life, and he started telling everybody their secrets, and the people at the bar did not like that, and so they beat him up, and he also
Well,
was
let's
drunk
just
out
say
his ass.
he's not telling like little secrets. He's saying like, yeah, I know those two guys. Everybody in town knows those two guys actually raped this girl, and his daddy bought off the judge.
Yes.
Things like that. Like, and oh, that was cheating on his wife, and like he's really laying it out there.
Like, yes, one person like little girls or little boys. Yes. Um,
One lady fucked a horse, and her. I mean, this is where Ennis really this and the boys are super over the top. Garth Ennis to me.
This one's, I think The Boys is more over the top because I feel this one is over the top, but I think, how can I say this? It's a well balanced over the top with also good character moments and whatnot. I think The Boys is purely over the top, just like super over the top,
And speaking of Ennis and over the top, Hitman is like, it's over the top, but for DC, like it is interesting to see how he like knows how to. Yeah, he's like, I can hit, because Welcome Back Frank, over the top for Marvel at the time, like. He's very good at that.
And so meanwhile, we see like out in the sky, but it says heaven, but it looks like a set of Star Wars or something. I don't know. It's interesting. All these like a big like metal ball with like rods, and there's a hole, and there's these three angels, which I find the dialogue of the angels funny. So apparently, this being that we don't know about much except for Genesis. Not the Star Trek Genesis, but Genesis has escaped. And it's funny how these angels were just like cursing Christ Almighty. Like I just find that hilarious. And then, I didn't know this. I looked it up, but there's different ranking of angels, and there's the highest ranking is a Seraphi. And like hopefully the Seraphi don't find out. Well, guess what? Seraphi did find out because Genesis, when he escaped, also like busted like took off ahead of one of the angels, and he's just so pissed off. And it's like, you're supposed to take care of this infant, Genesis. Go find him. And then they decide the only way to do this is to wake up the Saint of Killers, and they get one of them to go do it, and the guy's all stressed out about the Saint of Killers. Back in the diner, you find out that Tulip was trying to assassinate somebody. Doesn't go well. She runs, and that's where she meets Cassidy, which we don't know is a vampire yet. That's the thing. Other there's hints. There's definitely hints. Like he doesn't eat regular food. When they escape in his pickup truck, he stayed underneath a blanket because of the sun. But anyway, they escape. You find one of the angels go to Saint Killer's grave, wakes him up, and the first thing Saint Killer does is shoots him in the head. This is force of habit, and the angel is dying, tells him what he needs to do. Saint Killer he's a mean bastard, and eventually there's a miniseries all about his backstory. But anyway, you find out that what happened to Custer was he finally goes back to the church the next day, and Genesis, which is being of power, light, comes to him and merge into his body.
Well, I got to say two things about Genesis. One, and the church. First, everybody in town is at church for the first time. He usually has like 20 people, but since he went off, everybody wants to know what he's going to preach about that day.
Yes.
And then the other angels described Genesis as a screaming comet with a baby face. And that's literally what is drawn.
Yes. When Custer gets the power, he ends up vaporizing everybody in the church. And what you see is the background of a combination of a demon and an angel. You later find out that Genesis is the offspring of an angel and a devil having sex, and the devil got impregnated, and that's why Genesis is powerful. You also get hints in this issue, going back to reading it, and one of the main plot points is, so what you find out in the first story arc is God has left heaven. The whole thing that Custer wants to find God and find out why did he leave heaven. And so all this is in the first issue. So by circumstances, they all end up meeting. I think circumstances because by chance, how they drive by the church, that the remains of the church, that only person who remains is Custer. Then the police shows up, and you meet one of the most racist, worst people ever, the sheriff. I mean, he is so bad.
But there's so much worse to come in this book.
Yes, no, you're right. And do you remember what happened?
Jesse's family alone.
Yes. But do you remember what happened to? the sheriff at the end of the story arc.
It's been so long since I read it. Brian knows right off the top of his head.
At the end, of this story arc?
Yeah.
Yes, I definitely know.
So Custer, I don't think I said he has the power.
He gets to eat something.
No, not eat something. He gets to put something in his ass.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So Custer, he has the power to the word of God. So he could, what he says makes people do. So, so he in this issue he goes, drop the guns, all of you, and let us go. And that's what they did. So that's how they left the police. He did tell someone later on to fuck themselves, and that's what they did. And that ended up unfortunately bad for that person. So again, great first issue. It really pulls you in. I could see why this was super popular so quickly. Again, I didn't read it until like the first few trades, and I did read like already the first two story arcs. And you're right, I totally forgot how messed up his whole family is.
Yeah, his cousins, I think they are, or one. Oh, they're fucking nasty.
They are. They
His
are.
grandma.
Yes.
All right. Well, I have the next two chronologically. So first up, and is Fables. Both of mine are written by Bill Willingham. Um, I actually forgot that the art was not who I thought it was going to be on the first one. It was not Mark Buckingham until issue 6.
I do remember that. You know why?
Or
I
actually
actually,
issue 7.
okay, here's something controversial. I actually liked the art in the first story arc a lot. And when Mark Buckingham first joined Fables, I was like, oh man,
Hated it.
I did not like it. And I think but to be fair, I do think Mark Buckingham's art for the long run was the best fit for the book. But I thought, and we could talk about this, if this one was most set in New York City and it felt more like fitted that. But I think when you expand the story to Fables and all that, Mark Buckingham's art is much better.
Well, the first arc it has art by Lan Medina, and it is much more traditional. A lot of folks actually don't like the first arc. I do.
I
A
love the
lot of
first
folks
story arc.
say get through the first arc and get to Animal Farm on issue 6, and then that's where it really hits the ground running. Um, Austin, you like the first arc because it's a murder mystery, and you love that type of
I
stuff.
I stopped reading the Fables after the I want to say towards the end. So I was on reading Fables constantly. I read Jack of Fables. I read The Ferris. So I read all these issues, and like I was on Jump with issue 1.
All right. Well, since you kind of alluded to something, this book had a lot of spin-offs of various things. I've read them all except for one because it was so bad I couldn't take it. But I've read all of Fables, even the new series. I've got the book that was Peter and Max.
I read
I've
that book.
got I've read all of Jack, the Literals, the Ferris, the Cinderella spinoffs, all of it. Love
I
them
love
all.
this. The Cinderella spin-offs were great. Let me guess what book you didn't like.
Well,
Batman?
hold on. Hold on.
No.
Yes, I was gonna say, and I've even played Bigby, The Wolf Among Us, that video game. Brian, did you ever play that one?
Mm-mm. I know of it though.
But yeah, the Batman and Bigby, I read a couple issues. It's like this is garbage. I can't do it.
So
Like,
you know
and
my
it
whole
was the
thing.
Batman part that bothered me more than anything.
Well, I'm gonna go on a tangent. I hate Bill Willingham's Batman stuff. I like when War Games Omnibus was coming out. I was like, yeah, I'm not getting that. I even told people, yeah, it's the worst Batman story I ever read in my life. So yes,
Oh, I freaking love this series. A bunch of people tap out after the first main arc is done, where we find out who the adversary is that's taken over the homelands and caused all these fables to be in exile. Um, it does have a little bit of a lull after that, but it gets really, really damn good. And so many people missed out on. on how good the book is, and then how it ends. Issue 150 is wonderful. And then you would think there's no way they could come back to it. And I was real nervous when they did with that Black Label book in 2022. 150 tells the story of like what happens to a bunch of these characters for centuries, and you're like, what? How are we going to tell another story that doesn't just like erase part of that? Literally, 151 picks up the next panel from one of the main plot points in it, and just it doesn't contradict anything, and it's a masterclass of how to kind of come back to a story. Um, Brian, I know you said Amanda has read this. I know she got it for you. I didn't think you'd ever read it. Was this your first time reading any Fables?
It was. Yeah, Amanda's. I bought all the trades for her, and she read them all. And I was like, "Oh, I'll read these at some point." I just never did. And you picked Fables. I was like, Amanda, look, I'm reading Fables.
I kind of half did that on purpose because it's like, let's get Brian to read Fables finally, as I'm bitching that I didn't want to read Weed Through. All right, what'd you think? This, I mean, you get a little in the first issue. You don't like really get hooked. I don't feel, but I think you get a little bit of a feel for it.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was. Yeah, it's good hook. It, obviously, I knew what the conceit was. I'm sure at the time it was a little more exciting, but I liked seeing all these characters, and it's just like they can mention somebody, and you're like, oh, I wonder what they're gonna be like. And it's weird to see, like Snow White, for example. She's like has nothing to do with Snow White right now, and then Prince Charming, like
Don't
what
mention
a
the
creep.
drawers. Don't mention the drawers.
Mention the dwarves.
Yeah, it
Well,
was
and
weird
it's
too. So they were like, "What about the dwarves?" And then Boy Blue shows up at the back. I was like, "Is that supposed to be a dwarf?" And then they say his name, but I was like, "Oh, okay."
it's funny reading this, knowing I will say this series, the characters grow and change
Mm.
substantially as this book goes, and you don't see that much in comics. And just seeing where they start and knowing where they finish, like Bigby and Snow is one of the biggest romances in comics. They barely can tolerate each other in this first issue.
Hmm.
Prince Charming, the conceit with him is how many wives did Prince Charming have in fairy tales? He's a
It,
fucking man whore.
I love
And,
that. I love that twist. The fact that all the fairy tales that have a prince, it's the same one.
and Jack is little Jack Horner and all the other Jack and the Beanstalk. Every Jack that's been in a fairy tale, that is Jack. And they spin him off into his own series. And I love when he leaves Fabletown, they say he is never seen in Fabletown again. And by God, they make sure that never happens in any of these comics, in his or Fables for the rest of it. Um, Little Boy Blue just seems to be her assistant. He ends up being one of the biggest heroes of this book. It's just it's amazing the twists and turns that happen here, but it starts from such a humble beginning of it seems like a murder mystery of Rose Red is dead. It appears to be.
Hmm.
And Snow and Bigby are investigating the death. And you just get so many allusions to stuff in the background. And Rose Red, spoiler, she ain't dead. Um, she grows the most out of anybody, I think, in this entire book because she starts as just a conceited little socialite asshole in the beginning and ends up being one of the biggest leaders in comics. Like it's crazy. I do love the twist with the adversary. When they first started this, it was supposed to be Peter Pan, and they couldn't do it because of licensing issues and copyright issues in the UK. It was going to fuck with sales too much, so they made them change it, and it ended up being Geppetto. And Pinocchio is a main character in this book too. Um, but now in the limited series, Peter Pan ended up being, or not the limited series, the continuation. Peter Pan, for some reason, they're now able to bring Peter Pan in, and they made him the big baddie for that. And I thought that was just kind of crazy because for years they could not use Peter Pan.
I think it was because the copyright ended. That's why it was. I think it was past the date.
But personally, I love this book. I know we didn't talk too much about the first issue, but it's it's just a wonderful, one of the best Vertigo series and very long running with the 150s first series and then all the spin-offs that go into it. Um, but anyway,
I agree with you. I mean, this is again. I remember Vertigo was trying to find the next Invisibles, Transmetropolitan, next Preacher, and they were struggling. And then this book came out, and it was boom. It was a big hit as soon as it came out. I know people say it takes a second arc, but I remember at the shop, people were talking about this.
any thoughts on your side, Brian? Or any Amanda
Uh,
wants to yell at us real quick?
I I've always wanted to read it. Like I know a lot about what happens. It sounds intriguing. Eventually I will. Will I read Animal Man? Will I read this? Will I read West Coast Avengers?
I would put West Coast Ventures on the bottom.
I'm gonna prove
Compared
you
to all
wrong.
these, yeah.
Although maybe the babies are the same. The
Yeah,
bird babies.
how many butts do you get to see in that?
Well, all right. Next up, House of Mystery. I keep wanting to say House of Secrets. I
Yeah,
can't
I never
remember.
read House of Secrets, by the way. I only read House
I
of
haven't
Mystery.
either, and I've got the omnibus. So okay, there's a Steven Seagal or Siegel.
Seagull, Steven Seagal's the actor.
You-
Yeah,
I did
Austin
it's
did
it.
that
spelled about
last
the
week.
same. House of Secrets Vertigo book that came out years before this one. And it's in an omnibus, and it's like 25 issues or so. I've never read it. I have it. I've just never gotten around to reading it yet. But I read this one as it came out, and this one's longer running, but DC has not put it in an omnibus. The first issue is written by Bill Willingham. He does the entire series. Bunch of artists though, and I'll explain why. But the first one's Lilah Sturges.
Hmm.
Um, had you all read this one?
I read it when it was coming out. Yes.
I definitely did not.
All right, Brian, had you ever even heard of this one besides the old
No,
classic series?
correct.
All right. So, way back when DC used to have House of Mystery and House of Secrets in the 70s, kind of an anthology series with horror hosts, Cain and Abel, depending on which book it was, who then end up in Sandman in the Dreaming. Um, but the House of Mystery and House of Secrets, it's funny, do end up in the DC universe. You know, at one point, doesn't Constantine have one of them?
I think
I can't, I,
so. I mean, like when like post like in New 52, I think, right?
yeah, I think there was, yeah, he was traveling around in one of them.
I try not to remember the New 52 Constantine, but anyway.
Well, Cain has the House of Mystery, and he, it's Cain and Abel. He kills his brother all the time. That's kind of how the book starts. You think this
Mhm.
is going to be a book featuring Cain. He's having tea with his brother. He goes out, and somebody stole his fucking house, and he is
Mhm.
pissed. Like he's in the dreaming and just walks out there, and he's like, "My house is gone." And then we just flip to this woman named it's Fig, right?
I think
I want to
so.
say Fern, but I think it's Fig. Um, anyway, she is just on the run. Yeah, it's Fig. She is on the run from these two creepy ass people that they seem like ghosts. They're sort of floating on their tiptoes, chasing her, but they're holding hands. One, they look like they're going to a funeral. One's a guy, one's a girl, and they've destroyed her house. She's running for her life, but she just has a set of blueprints in her hand, and it's actually a house she's envisioned in her dreams. It's not one she wants, but it's an old Victorian house, and she's drawn the blueprints just to try to get it out of her head. But it is the House of Mystery. Um, but we keep flashing back and forth between her and this party at a house on a cliffside, and it appears to be the House of Mystery. And the conceit here, and I'm not sure you get the full explanation in the first issue. All these people are trapped there. They're
Yes.
it's like a huge bar in the foyer, and to pass time, you have to tell the story. That's how you pay for your food and for being there. But all these people have been lost and end up there, and they look from all different time periods. Um, Eventually, you see like a spaceman in there. You see an ogre, so they're not all humans. But you have to look really close to notice that. But there's a cast that ends up being kind of reoccurring characters, one of which is a poet, one's a bartender, one's this pirate lady, and one's just like a normal looking woman. Um, and you see this one lady's about to leave, and there's a coachman that's coming to pick her up, and that's the only way they're allowed out of here. But they don't know what they have to do for the coachman to come for them because the coachman's only coming for one person, and they know who it is, but they don't know where they're being taken. But they just know they're finally getting the fuck out of the house of mystery, and they're excited about it. So everybody else is jealous of her. Um, but like I said, every issue kind of goes back and makes sort of a play on the old anthology series because you've
Hmm.
got the ongoing plot, but there's at least one story of a couple pages, if not several of them, usually with a different artist, a guest artist. This one's with Ross Campbell, and it's called The Hollows, and it's one of the guests telling her story. And as
What a
Brian's,
story.
I
I was about to say, I
know.
think this is Brian's only thing he would say is this is weird to me before, and I think this is why. It's because of the story. And if you're just listening to what the lady's saying and you
Well,
ignore the panels, it's a normal story.
I will say also not just the story, but what leads up to like you were just telling this other story, and then all of a sudden I'm in like this bar with this woman just eating all the food, and this guy's like, "That's cool. You could pay me in a story." And I was like, "What? Did I go in the wrong book?"
Nope. That is the conceit of this book. There's always another story within the story. And sometimes they play a larger part in the bigger narrative, and sometimes they don't. Um, Ross Campbell's art in this is so weird.
Oh
Is
my
this
God,
cute
yeah.
little blonde lady telling a story of moving to the big city when her parents died, and she's got the big like oversized cutesy eyes and blonde pigtails, and the city just looks like a dump. And she's talking about dating all these men and
She moved to a small town
oh,
from the
from the
city.
city.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Oh, from the big, yeah, I had it flipped. Sorry. Well, she's talking
yeah.
about finding a fiance and who's rich and their wonderful love life and having babies and just how she loved her husband and stuff, but she just did not love her babies. She had like, she figures now postpartum depression and she just had to get out of there. And then she ends up in the house of mystery.
Wait, but
Now,
you
it
forgot
sounds like a
something.
straightforward story,
Yeah, yeah.
but the art tells you something else. All the men are giant flies, and when she has babies, they come out of her back as like 50 maggots, and her back is completely broken open and
And
busted.
there is a sex scene.
Yeah. A giant fly, like a human man-sized fly, going to town on her. And she was talking about her how wonderful her husband was. And her name's like Hungry Sally. And again, you think it's completely just hearing the story, it's completely normal, but the art just twists it so much. Um, but the whole time we see her in the house, she's eating like 50 plates of food and she's eating a whole turkey. And she's just a skinny blonde hair lady. And again, her name's Hungry Sally, but then they show a shot of her sitting on a stool and you see her back. It's completely gone, and all the food's just falling out of her mouth into a bucket that
It's
they have on the
gross.
floor
It's
above
gross.
them.
It's gross.
At least they don't show like internal organs. It's just
No.
completely hollow.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and Big is still running from these people, and she tackles the dude and gets them to not hold hands, and they kind of disappear. But they're telling her not to go in this door. And it kind of it reminds me of the Oblivion Bar in DC
I
in
did think about
Shadowpact.
that. Yes, I did think about that.
This
It's
was a
built
little bit or about the same time that that was happening because this is 2008.
is before is after.
Um, but she busts through this door and is in this weird hall with like it looks like a weird antique shop. Um, and she slowly just kind of goes through the halls and she ends up in the bar. Um, and they're telling her, "Welcome to the house of mystery." And the first drink's on the house. And Brian just, she becomes part of she is the main character. She ends up sort of running the house. But there's so many horror elements and mysteries of what the hell is going on. Why doesn't Kane have his house? Where'd it go? Why are all these people trapped there? Who's the coachman? Why are these people chasing Fig? All of it. Um, it's just got some great stories, and I do want to read this again at some point because I haven't read it since it came out.
I like the idea of there being like a big story around these weird anthologies. Um, I'll say at the beginning, I was reading this, I was like, okay, Cain and Abel. I was like, I don't know. I was like a little bored because like too much stuff that I didn't know what was happening. Uh, I didn't get super hooked until seeing the food fall out of that girl, and then the other girl like Fig coming into the bar, and I was like, I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
I don't have a fly kink, so it didn't land with me.
Well, this one just seems like a book nobody ever really has talked about in Vertigo, but it's one of my favorites. And did y'all see the Bernie Wrightson variant cover for
Yes,
issue one?
it
Since
is.
he's so tied to the originals.
Yes, fantastic, fantastic.
Well, those were my two picks back to back. And I did not even click until I said them that Bill Willingham wrote both of them. So he was doing this one at the same time as he was doing Fables.
So my turn next. 2010, we are introduced to American Vampire by the creative team on the first issue. Oh, I have the omnibus downstairs. The creative team on the first issue is Scott Snyder, Rafael Albuquerque, and this unknown novelist named Stephen King. And I remember picking this up, thinking, well, I'm going to pick this up because Stephen King is writing the backup story. I'm like, wow, he's doing comics. And I would say I was more impressed with the main storyline than the Stephen King. And I think that's generally what people thought. And I wanted to make sure people know this, that this was before Scott Snyder was known. This was before his first Batman comic book, 8 months before. He started writing Batman with Detective Comics 871 before the New 52. And that was when Dick Grayson was still Batman, or a Batman at this point. And he did it with Jock. So anyway, this is his first big book. And I read the first issue. I read every issue as it was coming out. I really enjoyed this series. It had some delays. They took pauses and whatnot. The series ended and came back in the miniseries. They also had some spin-offs. One of the spin-offs was drawn by Sean Murphy, who Brian Clark's going to talk about in the next one. I think that's the Scott Snyder's and Sean Murphy's first collaboration was in there, one of the American Vampire miniseries. But anyway, what this whole story is about is sort of like the name. It's talking about vampires and the birth of the American version of the vampire versus the European version. The first storyline set in 1925 in Hollywood, classic Hollywood, where this is before talkies were done, and we meet Pearl, who's a woman who's trying to break into Hollywood, and she has a roommate as well. Obviously this is like the 20s, and they're like living together, and they actually living in a like a I don't want to say apartment complex like we know today, but like apartments, and it's all for women because back then it was women all lived together, And there she meets a guy that we don't know is a really important character to the mythos as well. We find out later it's Skinner Sweet, who we see in the backup story, is hanging out there, and he's giving her a hard time, and she's like, you better be gone by the time we come back." They get invited to a big Hollywood party. Pearl is so excited she gets to go back and meet a famous producer. But the problem is the producers and his friends are all vampires. Oh, I also forgot at the beginning of the story, it's sort of like a fast forward, and you see some dead bodies in a car, including hers, and she's saying, "I'm alive," and she looks really horrible. And then you fast to the back where we're talking about Pearl, and what happened basically she is. The end of this issue ends with the vampires attacking her. And the next issue, you find out what happened to her. And it's very interesting. Just like Fables, Pearl really is she starts off as a actress, struggling actress, and she really changed into a great character throughout the series. Backup story, you find out about how Skinner becomes essentially the first American vampire, and that takes place in the Old West. Where he was a robber, a thief, bank robber, but unfortunately he robbed the wrong bank. I think it was a bank owned by what we found out later to be owned by a vampire. And Skinner tried to make an escape, but that vampire was going to have it, and well, he Skinner becomes a vampire at the end of the issue. And actually, they bury him into the water, and he's actually stuck underneath the water for a long, long time. And he finally escapes in the next story in issue 2. So I really do think the first issue is fantastic. It sets up the stage. The story takes place throughout American history. So that's also, I like those type of stories as well. Honestly, they're vampires that live forever. And this is fantastic. I think this is some of Rafael Albuquerque's best art ever. I no offense to his art today, but this one is more, I think, cleaner. I also think the colors are fantastic by Dave McRae on this issue. So yeah, I thought it was a great first issue. What did you guys think?
I have never read American Vampire. I was always curious why everybody thought it was good. Um, I was like, that's weird. That seems like a interesting thing. I don't know. I don't know, like if I'm just not like into the American West. Like I liked sort of seeing vampires in a different setting, although I have the weird viewpoint of having watched Sinners and then read American Vampire. And I don't know. I have to read more. Like you don't really get much of anything in this first issue until the very end. So I was like, okay, this
And I think that's because it's the main story. They made the room for the Stephen King stuff.
yeah.
So the omnibus has a setup where there's an interview with Snyder and Albuquerque about the book, and they asked how did Stephen King get involved, and Snyder had just reached out to him for a blurb, and Stephen King loved it so much he offered to write some stuff for it, and they thought, oh, he'd just do like a backup for an issue, and he wrote so much that he's backup stories for how many issues, Hassan? Like a lot, like a good chunk of the
I think the first,
beginning of the book.
yeah, the first story arc. I think throughout the first story arc, yeah.
And I think because they had to split the page length, you know how we like talk about image books now, and we love how some of the first ones are 60 pages, so you can really get a feel for what the book is. I think you miss some of that because they truncated the first part to make the room for the Stephen King stuff. This is not my first time reading it. I've read it a couple years back. Um, Brian, I felt a little like you did at first. It did not hit click with me like immediately by any means. It's just like, well, this is good. People love it. Let me give it a try. It's not one of my top Vertigo books by any means. I do like it. There's still, I think I've read like the first 20 issues. I want to finish it at some point. I just haven't gotten around back to it. I do think it's funny. The part that gets me is somehow Skinner's the first American vampire, but he didn't get turned until the late 1800s. So to me, it's not really a book on American history. It's a book on America's in the 1900s.
It is, right. It's not the whole American history, just half of it at this
And
point. But
and I'm just like, how is he the first American vampire? Like like this vampire turned him by accident in the first place. That's just
well,
like they've been there for a while.
no, I think well because they came from Europe. That's how I thought of it. You know, they weren't there.
But they still been in the US for a while. Like they had to turn somebody. Like they're eating all over the place. And I'm probably overthinking it. But also, I'm not big on stuff like set in the 20s, but I do like Pearl. The story does advance quite a bit to Hassan's point. I don't dislike this by any means. I just am a little, it's not one of the top Vertigo books for me. Um, Whereas if Hassan had picked 100 Bullets, which I was afraid he was going to do, we would be having a much different discussion because that book does not click with me at all.
Oh,
Not
they're
at
gonna
all.
say that's your favorite book. No, I knew you didn't like it, and I actually this you brought up Hundred Bullets. I actually read the first. I'm doing a reread of that this year, and I read the first deluxe edition. It's so good, so
I have
good.
not read 100 Bullets either. And that's something I definitely want to read. It is crazy because all this Vertigo stuff, I always just hear so much stuff. The only reason I haven't got into it is because I'm like, that's a lot. And now it's all on Ultra, so it's very accessible. But now I'm like, oh, I'm
But
like,
all of it
which,
has endpoints, even like a long one. Like 100 Bullets is long for Vertigo. It's 100
yeah.
pages.
Yeah,
Are 100 issues. Fables, I will admit, it's a lot if you go all in on it. You
yeah,
get a
because the
couple hundred
spin-offs and stuff.
issues.
Yeah,
But
Yeah, I'm
like
doing
America,
my third reread of Preacher. I mean, it's pretty achievable.
and that's like 60 something issues. It's not a ton. Like even a long one of these reads, except for a couple of them, is not that horrible. Even 100 issues for 100 bullets isn't bad. All right, Brian, you want to talk the wake?
So we'll stick with Mr. Scott Snyder here, uh, and we will talk a little bit about The Wake, which, as Hassan mentioned, came from sort of the end of Vertigo 2013, which is it's still so strange that they ended it. Like it doesn't make any sense, but whatever. I remember this. I got this book when it came off the shelf. Um, I was like, I remember being like, oh, I'm excited to try to get in on a Vertigo book at the time. Like I was like, I don't read any Vertigo, so here we go. I'm gonna get some Vertigo, and this this cover. So this is by at the time no name Sean Gordon Murphy, um, and this is kind of like a creepy sci-fi looking cover with some mystery on it, and you're like, it's very eye-catching cover. As soon as you open this book, you get this like futuristic world with a futuristic woman and her cool dolphin with all this gear on him, and the city's like all flooded, and you're like, okay, what
What
this
the
looks
fuck is
awesome.
going on?
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking. Because
and
okay,
it,
I'm
yeah,
gonna cut off on. I've never read this. I didn't know I have a fucking clue what this was
yes,
about.
hell yeah.
I'm going in pure. I know shit about this. Like I think I'd heard the title, but when I hear Vertigo in the Wake, I'm thinking The Dreaming. That ain't this. So
No.
I will let you
no,
continue.
Yeah. So Scott Steiner is always he like does these like little arcs things. So this is called The Quest, and you get this. There's no there's like very it's this lady talking to her dolphin, and you're like, okay, this is cool. This looks real cool. And to me, and I think a lot of people, this is your first viewing of Sean Gordon Murphy, and you're like, damn, this dude could draw. Like this is cool looking.
I was just like, this is where Tokyo Ghost came from. Like that's what
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
thinking.
a
no,
hundred.
yes.
Definitely, it's 100% true. That's what came next. And so you start the book and you get uh, a very horror credits page. Some little face. This is so if you see like if you don't know and you look at the cover, there's like some fish in a straitjacket and some fishtails, and then you get a little glimpse of this face here. And then I feel like the way that this book goes now into present day, 200. So we were 200 years in the future with Dolphin Woman, and now we're present day, and this feels very cinematic to me. We get Lee Archer, the sort of main character. She is Doctor. I'm sorry, Doctor Lee Archer.
Yeah, don't forget her. Yeah.
Yeah. And she is a marine biologist that specializes in whale vocalizations and like aquatic acoustics. And you learn she's very good at her job. Whales are very friendly with her. And then we get a big old D-bag from the Department of Homeland Security, Dr. Cruz. What great name to throw into your D-bag from Homeland Security. And he's like he dug up all this dirt. He knows that she's got like a rough life or a rough connection with her son, and he's like, I need you to go on this mission for me. And she's like, no, I'm not doing that. But basically kind of blackmails her into doing this. At this point, Brian, does this book feel like the beginning of a movie to you?
I feel like it's the beginning of Aliens.
A little bit like again, the last page is a cliffhanger, I guess. Like,
Yeah.
but the most of the time, I'm like, what the fuck am I reading? What is going on? I guess like, I can't tell you what this comic is about. Is how I felt.
Yeah. I mean, that's interesting. So essentially Dr. Cruz needs her. He takes her to what they call a ghost rig, which is a super proficient, super deep underwater mining facility that nobody's supposed to know about, but it's really good and people are getting rich, so they're just letting it fly under the radar. And he's got some other people with him. He's got like a shark hunter and a forensic mythologist, and they are like, and Dr. Archer, and they're like, oh, what's going on? And he's like, so while we were doing this, we like ran into some issues, and they have a brief run-in with some guy that got attacked by something. But they find out the thing that they found on accident is what they're calling a mer, so it's sort of an allusion to a mermaid or a merman, and it's like what's his name? Oh my God, why does his name fall out of my head from Hellboy?
I know. Abe.
Abe Sapien,
Yeah.
like a crazy ass vampire Abe Sapien, with a like a mermaid tail, in a
It looks like the
straitjacket.
creature from the Black Lagoon to me.
Yeah. That's like a vampire, the crazy version of that, in a tube, and Dr. Archer sees this and it's like, holy shit. And then you get like the really weird stuff where we go 10,000 years in the past real quick, and you see this dude, this caveman drawing on a wall, finding some futuristic thing, and he puts it in front of his face, and his face explodes all over his drawings, and the book ends and says to be continued.
Yeah, it looks like it plucks out his fucking eye, and I'm like, I don't know, like I don't know what the fuck's going on in this book.
But
And in a good way, I'm not gonna
Yeah.
say I'm like, yeah.
I,
All I
I
can say is it's got something to do with water.
I enjoyed it quite a bit. I did going back and rereading it. It reminds me of any beginning of a James Cameron movie. You got the Alien movie, you got the Abyss.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
if
Very
it,
Abyss and Alien for sure.
yeah, because it's like, oh, let's get the motley crew together of specialists, but they don't know what's really going on. You know, the art is fantastic. I think that's definitely a strong point
Yeah,
of the series.
I remember buying this book, and I was like, I could not wait for the next issues to come out. I was like, this dude's art is crazy. Like, what is this guy doing? How is he just working on The Wake Why is he not on Venom?
No, and actually, he ended up. You ever read? Was it? I'm gonna look it up now. I forgot the name of this book, but he also did.
The Chrononauts.
No, I was thinking more Vertigo. He did Joe the Barbarian with
Oh,
the
yes, yes.
aforementioned Grant
Punk Rock
Morrison.
Jesus.
Park Rock Jesus. That was a great book too.
Yeah, I have that. Yes, I did. I think I bought that after the Wake. But did you only read issue number one, Brian?
Yep.
Okay.
I read this first before I read all the other stuff for the show because I'm like, if I like it, I can go back, and I just hadn't had a chance to
Yeah,
read
because
it.
it's only 10 issues.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah,
and
it's a tight story.
yeah, so it's you do get more of the character at the beginning, obviously. Like he's not going to leave you there. Character's name is Leeward. Um, and I like how you get to her. My only complaint about this book, and maybe I just didn't know at the time, but I don't know if it felt rushed. Like, did Snyder have to end it? They were like, "Oh, wrap this up," because there's like a weird montage and a bunch of like he built out this world big time, and just kind of in one of the issues throws it all out there real quick, and then the ending is some 2001 A Space Odyssey shit. Uh, where you're like, oh my God, what is going on? So I thought that's cool. I don't think there's enough like sci-fi books. So like I am always gonna get into a sci-fi book. And I'm a little disappointed in the new Vertigo launch that as far as I know, nothing seems very sci-fi-y.
There's the one Tom Taylor and Derek
Yeah, that book is, I guess,
doing
yeah,
dinosaurs.
about
Yeah,
dinosaurs.
yeah,
That book looks, I don't understand what the hell that book could be about.
I mean, Nice House is sci-fi horror.
yeah.
But not, it's like not in your, it's like very,
It's more subtle because
yeah.
it's aliens, but it's in the
And
background.
you don't
It's
know that for a while. But, but this book just like sci-fi's it up every issue even harder. And it's super cool. And when Scott Snyder was at Dragon Con last year, I got him to sign this in Absolute Batman, and we talked about the Wake for a little bit. It
But
would be cool.
you're right. Most of the books are more horror crime focus for sure.
Yeah, because I wonder what year did Vertigo end?
I want to say was it
2015?
no 19. Well,
Okay.
it didn't like it died slowly. Like it was around, but not much, and then they try to make a comeback. I want to say 19 was the end, or maybe right before the year before COVID. Right, I think that's where it ended.
There
Then
was a
DC
book
came out with Black
called
Label.
it was called it actually it started off as FBP, the Federal
Yes,
Bureau of Physics,
yes,
and then
yes.
became Collider. Was that Vertigo or was the
There's
yeah, it
no, that's
was.
Vertigo. And actually, no, I think it's the other way because, well,
Uh,
a new trade came
okay.
out today or this week
oh,
of the first story arc. I don't know why, of all the books they have, why they're republishing that story.
that book was cool,
That
like
book was really
super cool.
good. That was really good. I really enjoyed that. I was not happy when it ended.
I was gonna pick
And,
that, but the only reason I picked Wake over that was because I really, really wanted to reread the Wake.
well, Wikipedia is saying that it was discontinued in January 2020, with any
Uh,
ongoing series moving to the Black Label imprint.
Wow. See, I was close. I say right before
oh yeah,
COVID.
but what was that other? Oh, it was like Young Animal.
Yeah, that's like Gerard. Is it Gerard Way? Is
Yeah,
that, yeah, his line. That that one. Not to get on a tangent, but that's what I like to do. That one started off strong with the Doom Patrol, but the problem was Doom Patrol was always late. And that was the strong book. And ironically, the best book, the most well-known book, was Far Sector, which was a Green Lantern book that now is probably the most famous book out of that whole line. It's not the Doom Patrol, which I did enjoy.
I thought that was super cool because I liked Shade the Changing Girl a lot, which is interesting that they did her there. I thought Mother Panic was a crazy idea.
Yes.
And then Cave Carson has a cybernetic eye.
Oh, I love that series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a good book.
Yeah, no,
But that Doom Patrol was awesome.
It was. I love that series. I read all of it. I mean, I'm just giving the feedback where probably what didn't help the book, the line was the lateness. But I thought it was all the books were very creative, fantastic.
It says here on 2020, but I can't find anything in January 2020. A lot of them were kind of moved. They did that sort of that Sandman Universe series of books.
Yeah.
That were kind of.
But that was Black Label by then.
Not all of them.
Oh, really?
It seems to be, but I don't know. It seems kind of like I can't find like a hard date of this was the last Vertigo book.
Yeah,
But
that's
then I
weird.
did hate that DC started slapping, you got to preach your omnibus and it says Black Label instead of Vertigo and stuff like that. But anyway, excited to see the new books. Hopefully they are good.
I think it helps that they're starting off with established creators, and actually not just established creators that have worked well with each other. So I think that's a smart way to launch Vertigo. So yeah, I'm already going to pre-order all the books when they come out. Shocker!
Yeah,
I know.
I'm hyped for Kyle Starks. That's cool. Like, because Steve Pugh, he's got that Vertigo connection, and he's awesome.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap this one up. Join us next week. We're going to continue our Justice League International run through. It will be Justice. Well, first we're going to start with the Mr. Miracle special, number one, which leads into Justice League America. Is it 38?
I want to say 38
and 40.
Yeah.
It's all the Despero storyline. So it'll be 4 issues, but there is a lot there, and y'all, it is a dark fucking storyline. So
yes,
that will be a fun read. I do think it's one of the high points of the run, so I'm looking forward to it. Hassan, anything to plug or anywhere to send folks?
Yeah, I mean, listen, for Black History Month, Daryl and I and special guests are covering some DC characters for Black History. Right now what's out is Steel. We cover the Steel. We also have John Stewart, the Green Lantern, not John Stewart, the comedian and talk show host.
Don't celebrate John Stewart, the comedian, for Black History Month.
No, don't do that. And also, if you follow us on all social medias, we're on all social media platforms, including TikTok and YouTube. Leave us a note on those platforms, or you could even send us an email directly, comicsdiscourse114@gmail.com. And please leave a 5-star review wherever you listen to podcasts.
All right, folks. Well, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you next week.
See ya.
Global Comics.